Hey everybody, I'm Stacy with New Creations by Stacy. I'm the owner and artist. I'm a Dixie Belle Elite retailer here in Ardmore, Alabama, the Rustic Willow if you're local. And I still have my location in Madison as well. So I'm just kind of checking to make sure we're live here. I'm not seeing the video pop up yet, but if you guys are jumping on, just say hey, where you're watching from. We should have Dixie Belle live with us as well to help answer any questions. If I do miss anything going through the live, I'll definitely jump on after and answer any questions, say hey. So tonight we're actually going to be finishing up our start to finish nightstands. And in the description, by the way, in the description I've got the full product list that we're going to be using tonight. We're going to be doing some waxing, some Voodoo gel stain, and just demonstrating a little of the clear coat protectant, kind of how to put that on without getting any streaks. And then also I do have a link to my Facebook page so you can see once these are finished and I've been able to stage them and post pictures, see how they turned out. As well as I have a couple videos. I did everything live on these, so step by step. I did go ahead and strip them live on my page as well if you wanted to see that. Hey Deborah from Long Island. So as we go along, I'll go ahead and get started. I feel like I've forgotten to say something in the description there, but take a look at it. You join the chalk paint mineral, and I can't talk tonight. The chalk paint mineral enthusiast group, the link is in there as well for that. Hey Wanda, it's good to see you on. So my goodness, I was just watching the news before we came on tonight, and it's just so sad with everybody in Kentucky. Just if anybody's watching, just my prayers go out to you guys. Anybody affected by the tornado. But let's go ahead and get started here. So I feel like sometimes on camera things look a little bit different. This one is actually been stained. It's not nearly this dark, and there is quite a difference between the two, but they kind of look the same on camera from here. So let me go ahead and bring you guys in. Oh, thank you, Wanda. I know, it was just, unspeakable. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and bring you guys in, and I'm going to drop you down a little bit. Let me roll this one forward so you can really get a good view of what we've got going on here. Hopefully you can see. Let me show you this one just so you can get an idea. We're going to be using Tobacco Road and the Up in Smoke gel stain. So we've got this one here. You can see it's just a brown color. I'm using very little of this because we already have the brown undertones in the wood. And then the second one we're using, you can see it's just a gray color, Up in Smoke here. And it's going to take us very little. This is really a quick process. Love this stuff. It dries so quick. It just makes it a lot easier than the No Pain Gel Stain, which I also love. That always gives a nice deep look to it, but the Voodoo Gel Stain is just convenient. Let me see if I can get you guys straightened out here. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. So when you're using Voodoo Gel Stain, it does tend to separate. So you just wanna shake it up really, really well. And like I said, we're going to be using just a tiny bit here. And we're going to be applying it with the blue applicator sponge as well. So I'm going to set that down. And so I can't see comments right now. I've actually lost the video feed. But I'll try to get that back in just a second here. And we're just going to keep on going. So we're going to use very, very little of the Tobacco Road. So I just want a tiny bit. Hopefully you can see there. Not much at all. And then we're going to use more of the Up in Smoke because I really, really want this to have, these are customs. And the flooring is a gray. I'm putting it pretty close, but I'm putting about twice as much in here. But the flooring is like a gray, what is it, perca flooring or whatever that she has. So we're going to go ahead and try to kind of match that, make it work together. So we're just going to take our blue sponge and see, I just wanted a little bit of the brown, more of the gray, not very much at all. I'm going to put this on very thin. You can put it on thicker than this if you want it to cover more. The Voodoo gel stain sits on the top kind of, so you can go as thin or as thick as you want. So I'm really thinning it out. I almost want it to be like a wash. So we're just going to do the same thing here, more of the gray, less of the brown. And we're just going to kind of go all the way across. I'm going to start to scrub it a little bit, putting quite a bit of pressure on it. And the reason I'm kind of scrubbing it is because, like I said, I want a very thin coat. I want it to just kind of highlight that gray. But I want to use the brown that's already in the wood to kind of show through as well. This is pine, so it has some beautiful grain in it. Some beautiful, beautiful grain to it. Again, you can see kind of how we're doing there. And I'm going over, now this does dry quickly, so you want to work a little bit fast. But I'm going over some of the part that we've already done. If it's already drying, I don't want to pull it back. So I'm just going over just a little bit. And this should be our last little part here. So I've just got a little bit more of the stain. We're just going to keep wiping it on. Like I said, you do not have to strip. You can use the Voodoo gel stain over the top, but I do like to strip it down because I like the way it has a slightly different look, I feel like. So that's why I go ahead and strip it. So you can see I've got some gray streaked in all these places. It looks a little bit different on camera, but it does give it a nice gray wash, and it allows that brown to show through, as well as the knots are nicely highlighted as well. So that was actually a mix of Tobacco Road and Up in Smoke. I saw one of the questions kind of go by. So yes, these are water-based stains. So they are soap and water cleanup. So super easy, fast drying. With the no pain gel stain, you can protect it until generally about 3 to 5 days for it to fully dry all the way through. With this, we're actually going to go ahead and hopefully protect this by the end of the live. So I'm going to go ahead and push this back because we're going to start waxing the other nightstand. And I'll kind of bring you up to speed where we're at here. And all of the videos, like I said, we prepped these pieces live. I did everything live on these videos. Go ahead and pop it up so you can see it a little bit better. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and drop you guys down so you can have a nice view of the, just a nice view of the wax. So you can kind of get a close-up of more so what that's going to look like. There we go. So perfect. Actually, let me get on the other side of this. So there is a rug in the room as well. It's got these beautiful blues in it. So I did this live, and the first coat is Quiet Cove and Saltwater in silk. It's kind of blended. It was a little bit too blue, so the second coat on here is, so I'll get to your question in just a second, Julie, about the difference between the Voodoo and the No Pain Gel Stain. But the second coat on here, I actually did CMP, just one coat blended of Savannah Mist and Fluff. So this is a blended coat over the silk blend. And that gives me some nice layering effects. You can kind of see where it's a little bit streaky and some of that quiet cove is showing through. So that's what we've got going on here. It's a blend as well as a little bit of a layering. So the biggest difference between the No Pain Gel Stain and the Voodoo Gel Stain is one is water-based and one is oil-based. So Voodoo is water-based, soap and water cleanup. You can protect it quickly. There's a lot that you can do with it. The No Pain Gel Stain is oil-based. It sinks more into the wood as opposed to kind of sitting on top of it. And it is, you don't have to strip as well to use the No Pain Gel Stain, but it does clean up with like oil. Oil pulls back oil, so it's going to clean up with like mineral spirits, or I've heard some people say they clean it with oil. I always use mineral spirits. It also dries at a much slower rate, so you can recoat with the No Pain Gel Stain in about 24 hours. However, when you want to put a water-based protectant over it, it needs to thoroughly dry, and depending on your climate, the environment, all of that good stuff, it's usually about 3 to 5 days before you put a clear coat on. It does vary a little bit, so if you were new to No Pain Gel Stain, I would definitely say wait 5 days. Once you've used it a lot and you become familiar with it, then it's, you can kind of get a good idea of when it's really dry. So tonight, though, for the wax, we're going to be using a black Best Dang wax. So you can kind of see what this looks like. I've got a little chunk taken out of mine. I was mixing up. I've got another project going, and I wanted to darken up our brown wax. So I also have grunge gray here, which I don't use too frequently, you can tell. This is a new container. And I also have some clear wax. And I have clear wax because it acts, kind of acts like an eraser. If you get too much on here, you want to take it off, you can just go over it with clear wax and it's going to erase that dark wax. I also have white wax just in case I want to add any highlights, but I don't know if I'm really going to be using that or not. So I'm going to be doing this a couple different ways with the wax because I definitely want to give some of these areas that are recessed a little kind of like a pinstripe. And then I also want to do just a little more shading on my paint. Now, because I went over the silk with the chalk mineral paint, I have added a coat of satin clear coat, and that is so that my wax is workable and I can move it around. The paint is very porous, so if I put the chalk paint directly on, if I put the wax directly onto the chalk paint, it's just going to stay there. I'm not going to be able to move it around or do anything with it. So let's go ahead and get started with this. I should get quite a bit done here. So first thing I'm going to do, let me show you my wax brushes. I've got quite a few out here because I'm going to be doing different things. So I've got the La Petite. I don't wash my wax brushes very frequently, but I've got my La Petite. But it is water cleanup, soap and water cleanup as well for the Best Dang wax because it is water-based. I've got my large Best Dang wax brush, as well as I've got a premium chip brush. And then I've just got 2 art brushes here that are natural bristles so that they kind of stay a little bit more stiff and I can really work them into the details. Hey, Julie. Oh, thank you. Hopefully I didn't miss any. I've kind of lost it again on my other device, so I'm just kind of trying to watch up here. So what we're going to do, I've got the black wax on here now, and this one is actually, doesn't look clean, but it is. We're going to be using this one for the grunge gray. So I think just around this outside part, I want to go ahead, I want this kind of dark. So I'm just going to kind of line that out. We're just going to work on this drawer right now. So one other thing. So in the center, my wax is, it's thin, it's softer. And then around the edges, my wax is kind of hardened a little bit. So for this little pinstriping that I want to do, I actually like to use my harder wax because it's going to just kind of go right in here. It kind of stays a little bit better for the pinstriping, I feel like. But you know, I can do it with any. This is just kind of my method here. You know, when your wax is new, you don't have that hardened area, you can still get the same effect. Doesn't really change it. So I'm just kind of going through and darkening up these areas right here. For the rest of this, I'm going to be using the grunge gray, so I'm really just keeping this along the edges. So this is a very subtle difference too. Not sure you'll really be able to see the difference from the camera. It just doesn't quite pick up all the details. So I just put a little bit of the grunge gray wax on here. I use my lid a lot, but I'm going to kind of spread that around so that I'm just not blobbing one big blob on here. And I kind of want to put this more so in this curved area. I want to highlight that a little bit more. And maybe just go like this on the edges. That'll kind of bring some in, give it a little softer, feathery look. And then I'm going to start pulling back. And to do that, and it does, by the way, it does take really about 15 to 20 minutes. Oh, thank you, Amy. It does take about 15 to 20 minutes for this to fully set up. But I kind of like to start working mine. I can go back and buff it later, but I want to start wiping back because obviously I don't want to leave it looking like this. But I do have like just a lint-free rag here, and you can see it's really well used. And I'm going to start softening some of this up in here. I want it to be very dark in that crease, so I don't want to bring all of that out. But I'm just going to start wiping back, kind of on that line. Softening it up over here. I don't want to pull it all back. And the pressure that you put on your rag also will kind of determine how much you're pulling back. But I do want it to be nice and soft. I just want it to add some extra shadow. This just adds to the blending here. So you can see how that's softened up, but I still have that crease accentuated. And I also want to tone down this blue a little bit. That's another thing that this is doing for me, is toning down this blue. Because we've got a pretty patterned rug in here where this piece is going. So I want it to blend in and not be overpowering. So in here, I'm very lightly kind of just rubbing this down a little bit. I want to soften up that look. So that's really, I don't know, yeah, you can tell the difference a little bit. This is the grunge gray in this area. And we're just going to I kind of want to leave this a little bit brighter in this section. I'm actually going to do a little bit more work to this, but I'm going to finish these up on my page this week. I don't exactly know what day yet. So another thing with this, it is pine. And I do have some, hopefully I can bring you in and really point those out. Lightly rubbing this back. I do have some indents because this is a soft wood. So it has quite a few little dents and indents in here. Down here is one of those spots. So my wax is sitting right in those grooves, and it's just adding a lot of character. Sometimes stuff like that, though, is hard to see on camera. Just like that layered effect where we went over the where we went over the silk with the CMP. So let's go ahead and move down a little bit. And we're going to do the same thing on this next drawer. I want to take kind of where my wax is more hard. We're going to go right through here. I just want in that crease to be nice and dark. A lot of this I'm going to take back, soften it up, so to speak. So we're going to go right in here. Just going all the way across the bottom. Kind of a little bit more over here. Hopefully you guys can see. I have a hard time seeing this side on the drawer. Oops. So we're going to bring it in a little bit over here with the black. And you know, you can mix your waxes too. So you can actually tint the clear wax with paint, very, very, very little paint that you need. So you can make any color wax that you want. And you can also mix your waxes together. So if I wanted like a darker gray or even a lighter gray, I could mix like some white in there or some black in there to change the tone of it slightly, which is something I always like to do. I just like to experiment a little bit. And it's such a subtle difference. I'm going to put that grunge gray in there. See, it's just slightly lighter than the black. And let me go ahead and run some down the sides as well. Kind of in between where that black is. That'll kind of give it a nice shaded effect. We're going to come back with the La Petite. I think I might have called it a mini earlier. I'm going to wipe some of that off, just kind of make sure it's all blended in there. And we're going to come in here. I think I do want to come a little bit. I want to keep it light, but I do kind of want to come a little bit up here and do the same thing. See, now that I've decided to do this, I can go right back over where I waxed before and add a little bit more. Maybe want to highlight these some too. No, I wiped a lot of that back earlier, but let's just see how that comes together. So I'm going to kind of start up here a little bit. And what I normally do is just kind of find a spot, put my fingers in, and then wrap this around so I have a nice surface for wiping that back. And let's say I didn't like this in here. I could actually take my clear wax and pull some of this back. I want to leave some of those highlights over here on that raised portion. Just go through here. I'm just very, very lightly touching this because I'm just softening it. I don't want to take it off. I just want to soften it up a bit. So down here, now here I'm putting more pressure on here because I really, really want to soften this quite a bit. This is not as deep of a recess as around this drawer front where it comes out, so I want that to be pretty soft. Just want it to add a little bit of shadowing. Just trying to make sure I'm not missing anything here. Oh, hey, Juliana. Hopefully I said that right. I don't have my readers on and everything is so tiny up there, so. All right, we're gonna come over here. We're gonna soften up this edge. Go. So now I actually, when I was trying to soften that, I pulled a little bit too much over here. So this is a perfect example of what we can do with the clear wax. And anytime I'm waxing, I always make sure I have my clear wax out because this is my eraser. So I'm just going to take a little bit here, but you can see very, very little, and I can completely erase this off right over here all the way. So it's completely gone now. And I'm just running it across the raised area over here just to pull back any wax that I've gotten there. So let's go ahead, and I can do this a little bit faster. Let's go ahead and just soften all this up. I'm not really sure when I'm leaning over like this if you guys can see, but it's the only way that I can kind of see what I've got going on. And this is actually going to be my last coat here, is the wax, because the wax is also a protectant. I do like to use the clear coats because I feel like with selling furniture, it's just a little more durable. But so I'm rubbing a little bit more pressure right here because I want that area pretty light. I'm rubbing very lightly here to just soften it up, but I want that wax to stay on there. And it's really pulling into these grooves nicely. Very, very nicely. So I'm just going to go ahead. So let's say, and I don't know if you'll really be able to see this, but let's say I want to brighten this up a bit. I can take some of my white wax, and this I'm not going to do regularly, but just to kind of show you guys, especially when I'm going over white, I do like to use the white wax because in those sections where you want it to be very white, this doesn't quite erase it like the clear wax, but it will kind of give it a nice white. And I just kind of rub that in. And like I said, it doesn't erase it, but it does give it a nice white kind of streaky little highlight going on there. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and finish up this front section, and then we'll protect the top. So in here, for this section, and I'm going to kind of cross-contaminate my brush here, I'm going to use the center of the black, and we're going to go ahead, I'm going to rub some in up here because I want to darken that area. We're going to bring this down. Hopefully you can kind of see. I don't want to take out the drawer. I'm going to kind of scrub it a little bit. And I'm scrubbing it lighter on the way down. We're going to do the same thing to the bottom. I want it dark in that crack there. And I'm just going to kind of bring it up a little bit. And then we're going to start wiping it back some, softening it up. I'm not completely wiping it all back. And you can do as much or as little as you want here. It's just kind of giving it a little bit more dimension. I do like my wax pretty subtle, which sometimes I think that makes it a little more difficult to see on the videos. And what I'm doing is I'm just pulling it back on the highlighted area down here. And I got a little bit on the drawer, so I want to kind of wipe that back. There we go. So that side's done. Let's go ahead and do this section right here. I'm just trying to kind of watch my time. So this, I definitely want lined out. I want all those nice and highlighted. Another way to do this, you can use glaze as well. But I feel like wax is just a little more soft. I can get those, kind of that soft shading with it. And I kind of given up using the grunge gray. I kind of like it with the black. So, you know, I can always come back and do that grunge gray. But I think I'm just going to use the black here. It's doing kind of exactly what I wanted it. I've got a few holes. I'm just, you know, some nicks and dings down here. I'm just getting the black in there so I can really highlight that. So that's kind of what you saw me doing at the end. And then we're just going to come back through and we're going to wipe some of this back. And I said that about the gray, but I think I want to do something else with the gray here in a sec. So I want that nice dark and highlighted. So I'm only wiping back. I don't want to soften this at all. I want to completely wipe it back except for in that groove. And when the wax dries completely, it will look a little bit different on here as well. So that just really accentuates and gives this a lot of dimension in those grooves. I'm just kind of wiping that back. Now I did decide that I do want to add a little bit of, and really I should be using the other brush to apply this, but I want to darken this up kind of in the recesses a little bit. So I just want to add a little bit of the gray over here too some. These are curved areas. And I've also got just a very small recess. It's not quite as deep as the others right there. And accentuate that a little bit. So when I'm wiping this section back, I don't want to pull all that gray off. So very, very, well here I'm going to go a little bit harder because I got a lot on there. I just want to soften this, but kind of leave it there, just lightly. I want it to be very subtle. So we're just going to get that section out. And like I said, once this sets up, you can go back and buff it, and it'll get a nice shiny, shiny look to it. So that's it for using the wax. That's just how you go through to accentuate your highlights. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you, Dixie Belle. All right, so that's it for using wax. Of course, you just go over the whole piece, but I mean, we just worked on that for about 15 minutes, and I've almost got the front done, so it's really, really easy. So now we're going to come back and we are going to use the Protectant. So I'm going to pop you guys up again, and this is going to be the clear coat satin, and I'm really kind of hoping that this is dry enough. Normally, I would not protect for about 1 to 2 hours after I stain, just because I like to give it that full time, and I feel like you get the best experience that way. But for the purpose of a live, it's, you know, we kind of rush things a bit. This is not what I would normally do, though, as far as rushing it. All right, so I've got you guys in, and this is the one that we stained just a little bit ago. So normally on a flat surface, when I apply a clear coat, my preference is to use an applicator pad normally, or or a blue sponge. Really, I like the applicator pad. In this case, we're actually going to be using one of these synthetic brushes, and I'm just going to use an oval small here. So one thing about satin that I hear from people is that you get streaks. So the first thing is apply it thin. Very, very thin is how I typically apply it. But not only that, just don't overwork it. I'm going to show you how to apply it with a brush, which, like I said, it's generally not my preferred method, but I have grooves in here. We're just going to put a little bit of satin on here. I have grooves all around the edges, and I don't want all my clear coat to pull up in there. So I'm going to go ahead and use a brush. I'll be able to get that out a little bit better, but that's why I'm using a brush on this. Normally a flat surface, 100% the applicator pad. So I'm just going to put a little bit of satin on my brush. I'm going to kind of offload it in the center. And then I am quickly, well, didn't put enough on here. The reason I offloaded it in the center is I don't want the excess on my edges. So what I'm doing here is I'm quickly working this through, and I'm trying not to go back over where I've already applied it. So we're offloading in the center, and I am keeping it very, very, not going back over those spots, keeping it very, very thin. If you missed a spot, like let's say you see me, well, I don't know if you can see me or not, but I'm judging this from the side. By the way, that last pass, I'm going very light so I can get out my brush strokes. So offload it. If you see that when you're going over this, if you see that you've missed a spot, do not be tempted to go back over it. That is the one way you're pretty sure to get streaks. And I've done it myself because I just think, oh, I could fix it really quick. Don't do it. Don't be tempted. It will definitely give you a streak. And most of the time, you can always hit it on the second coat. But also, sometimes it's not really a streak. It's just the different rate at which it's drying. And you can see it goes on a little bit milky looking, but then it starts to dry clear. So that's actually it for adding it. But you really don't want to do a lot of passes over the same spot. I'm going to pop you guys up. You don't really want to do a lot of passes over the same spot. And the reason that you don't is because this dries, it doesn't dry as fast as gator hide. Gator hide is like glue. You're not going to get a lot of passes going over it. This clear coat dries a little bit slower, so you can usually, if you work quickly, you can do, 4 passes or something like that over it. But as soon as you feel it pull at all, you just want to stop on that area. So let's say this dried, and it's drying really well. Let me see if I can bring it back into view. It's drying really well, but let's say I had some streaks in here. I would actually go over it with a fine grit sandpaper and then do another coat. But like I said, my favorite way to do a flat surface is going to be with an applicator pad. I feel like that's the best way not to get streaks. But that's just my opinion. Somebody else may have another method that they're more comfortable with. There's no right or wrong answer, but that's how I apply mine to avoid any streaks. And this one over here has actually been protected twice using the same method. So that one's already done. But that's it. Actually, that was pretty quick. That's it for our last steps. I will be live this week. If you check out my page, it's a little bit of a surprise, but I've got something extra I'm going to do on the front here. Oh, thanks, Dixie Belle. But thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. If you know anyone who could use any of these points or information, please definitely share the video and just like and follow me on Facebook. Also, if you are a retailer, definitely post your business in the comments so that way if anyone's watching locally, they can find you. And I love to support small business, so I will definitely go on and like and follow your page as well. But thank you so much, and you guys take care. Have a great night.